You're listening to the International Moving Podcast, your guide to moving to another country, brought to you by SDC International Shipping, LA's finest. An international move is exciting. It's a time to start over, establish a new business maybe, reestablish family ties, or retire where your budget will do more for you. Please enjoy today's episode, and if you have any questions about your international move, give us a call at 888-779-3962. That's 888-779-3962. All right, welcome back, everyone. This is Jim for SDC International Shipping. It's great to be here again together with you today as we talk about the topic of international moving, international relocation, what some of the other countries are like, what the opportunities are like, the cost of living, what goes into the international moving process, including shipping by sea, shipping by air, packing, insurances, timetables, visas, all of that. It all seems overwhelming, but I think that if you go back and you listen to some of the previous episodes, if you've been with us before, or maybe if you're a first-time listener, as we move from episode to episode, I think you'll hear some of the things repeated, which is good because that's how you learn. Repetition, you begin to get a deeper understanding of the same information the more you look into it. And I know that's how it has been for me since we started this podcast back in, I believe it was November of 2022 now. So I knew a little bit about international moving, but the more I learned, the more I realized, the more I didn't know. And it has kind of been an adventure for me just looking into this. And I have to say that I have thoroughly enjoyed this topic because I come from an older Italian family where you moved from back in the old days, from the old country to the U.S. You came in on the East Coast via Ellis Island, and you either relocated to places like New York, New Jersey, or if you were extra adventurous, maybe you'd go to a place like a Chicago or a New England. And basically, several generations of the family which followed would grow up in that area. But I come from a generation, in my generation, we were I wouldn't say we were the first, maybe we were the second generation to kind of spread our wings and leave that place where we grew up. And it wasn't just Italian-American families. I think it was just families in general where the whole family no longer grew up and went to the same schools and lived in the same towns and passed the family house on to the next generation. Today, people move all over the country and, in fact, all over the world for many different reasons. When we're talking about what's the least of the reasons, employment definitely isn't all the way down at the bottom. Employment is all the way at the top. So I think what I wanted to say, not the least of which is employment, because you cannot live comfortably if you don't have a good career, if you don't have a good job, if you don't have a way to make money consistently, then life is tough. And I think life is tougher for more people today than in the past, simply because of the economic conditions we find ourselves in. Even before inflation really hit back in 2020, 21, we've noticed over the years that the dollar, so to speak, was buying a little bit less, a little bit less, a little bit less, and the cost of living was creeping up. And then it made a huge jump back in late 2020, early 2021. That's when things really went sideways for a lot of people in the world. Now, if that hasn't affected you as an individual, that's great. That's fantastic. But even the people that I know who are, I guess I could classify them as old timers. What classifies someone as an old timer? What's the number? I don't want to put a number on it. But I guess if I had to, if push came to shove, I would say north of 70 would be considered an old timer in my mindset. Even those individuals that I've talked to, and I know quite a few of them, they've told me that they're concerned for not just their children's future, but more specifically their grandchildren's future. Because right now here in the United States, the cost of living the national debt is $34 trillion. And the idea is that the Federal Reserve banks in every country have the ability to print money. And basically, there's nothing behind the money. There used to be gold behind the money. Just stay with me for a moment as I just give you the layman's breakdown of this. They kind of print money out of thin air and they put it into the circulation. And the basic breakdown is the less of anything that we have, the more valuable it is. And the more of anything that we have, the less value it is. And so even though some economists, probably most, would say this is an oversimplification, that sometimes simplifying things is the way you can really get a handle on it. This is the way I got a handle on it. And to really simplify it, the more money we have in circulation, the less valuable it becomes, the less it can buy, if that makes sense, because its value begins to drop. So the more money we print, now somebody would say, it doesn't make any difference what we print it for. Some people say, well, it's the money that we print that we have in circulation here in the United States. That's what affects our economy. Others say, no, it's the money that we print that we send out into our economy and that we send out overseas. All that money that we give to other countries, that's what's causing inflation. That's what's devaluing the dollar. And so, if you're in a political position, if you're an economist, then you have a stake in the game, right? You have that old saying, you have skin in the game. And so if you talk against your own system, and this is what makes it so difficult, if you talk against your own system, then you're ostracized from the system, right? So for example, if you're a doctor and 90% of the doctors believe one thing about any given medical topic, and you're in the 10% that thinks the other way, if you make your opinion known too loudly, then what happens? Then you get ostracized by your community. And it's true no matter what technical topics that you're talking about. We can talk about politics, finance, healthcare, science, whatever. And that is true. And so it makes knowing the truth about any particular topic a little trickier today, because people don't want to be put in a bad light, and they'll do anything possible to protect themselves from being put in a light, whether we're talking about why things are done a certain way versus why they're not done that way anymore. That's just a deep rabbit hole. No need to go down it, but I know this for certain, and you probably do too. If you look back on your life, you can definitely see this pattern of the dollar buying less and less and less, and taking more and more and more to be able to purchase the same goods and services that you purchased in the past. Unfortunately, when wages do not keep up with the cost of living, then people suffer. And I would say that the simple conclusion is that we're seeing more people suffer today, especially the middle class. We're seeing an erosion of the middle class. And I'm not saying this in the framework of politics, who you should or shouldn't vote for, any of that. I'm saying this in the context of opportunities for you or I as individuals. Specifically today, I want to talk about career opportunities. What are the best countries right now in 2024, as of this recording, where you could advance your career? What are some of the options that are out there? And what do they look like and what's involved? That's what I wanted to talk a little bit about today, because just recently, myself, my immediate family, we were considering also relocating, something I wouldn't have even thought about maybe 4 years ago. Seriously, I'm thinking seriously about now. Now, I'm not talking about relocating out of the country for myself. I have older family. I need to be here in the U.S. for a given amount of time so that I can be there for them, family that needs me. So I'm talking about relocating here within the U.S. to a place where maybe as I enter my pre-retirement years, that my dollar will go a little bit further, where the cost of living is a little bit less, where mortgages are a little bit less, or taxes are less. So, but when we apply this thinking to countries, maybe not so much the cost of living, but the opportunity for career advancement. Now, if you're making a lot of money, you can live anywhere, right? If you have a good career that pays well, then you have advantages, of course, that maybe not everybody has. And so that's what I'm looking at right now. If you want to advance your career, what are some of the countries in 2024 that are all the way at the top of the possibility list? I found 4 countries right now that other experts, other career advisors, if you will, are talking about. And those include Germany, Canada, which kind of surprised me, Australia, and Japan. These countries right now are ranked very high for good job markets and work life balance. And most importantly, especially for our listeners here, job opportunities for expats. Now, Germany is particularly known for its strong economy and job market, while Canada and Australia have been praised for their overall work environment, along with the job opportunities. Japan is recognized for its highly literate and technical advanced workforce. And then other countries have also been mentioned. Of course, the United States is still being mentioned as having opportunity. People aren't coming here for no reason, of course. They go to other countries for the same reason, like New Zealand and the UK. But today I want to focus a little bit on just a handful of these because we only have a limited amount of time to talk about this. But when you're considering the best countries for your career opportunity, factors such as job markets, work-life balance is huge. It's not all about work. I think the older that you get, the more you realize the necessity for some kind of balance in there. Income equality, which is something that we haven't talked about until recent years. They've been a lot of talk about inequality between men and women on the job, and so these countries are considered to be better in that respect. I'm talking about Germany, Canada, Australia, and Japan. Job availability for expats, that's big because a lot of countries don't want to hire expats. They want to hire people from within their country first. But some countries just do not have enough people to do that kind of work, and so expats become a very viable option. But job availability for expats, that's another thing that's really important to take into account. And it's also important to consider the specific industry and job sector when you're going to evaluate the potential for your career growth and opportunities in a particular country. Now, just in case you're wondering in the back of your mind, Jim, where are you getting your information from? I get it online like most people do. The information I just shared with you can be found at usnews.com, goabroad.com, and gooverseas.com, and they currently have up-to-date information on the best countries, good job markets, places to start a career, and so on. Also, visafirst.com recently wrote an article on the top 10 countries with the highest job opportunities. But let's talk a little bit about Germany. So I had dinner with a friend of mine just this past week. He's here for several months. He lives in Germany, but his family's here in the United States. And so he's doing the opposite. He wants to leave Germany and then relocate here to the United States, but it isn't easy. It may take 8 years. He started this process about 2 years ago. And so if you do have a certain skill, if you do have a lot of money, then again, it is easier to make all of these things work. Right opportunities, doors of opportunities open. But if you just go through the process, doing it legally, of course, sometimes it can be a little bit long and a little bit grinding depending on what direction you're going in. So now if we're going to work in Germany, individuals will typically need a work visa, which is often included in a residence permit. And the requirements for a work visa in Germany include things like, number one, a recognized qualification. So your qualification must be recognized in Germany or comparable to a German degree. For example, I know a few attorneys that are from the old part of the old Soviet Union countries. They can't practice law here in the United States. One or two doctors can't also because that qualification doesn't carry over here. They would have to get new qualifications in order to be able to practice law again. Number two, you need a job offer. You need a specific job offer from an employer in Germany. Number three, age and salary. If you're over 45 and you're coming to work in Germany for the very first time, the job must enable you to gross an annual salary of at least 49,830, I guess we would say euros there in Germany. So, and also, if you want to work in a regulated profession such as healthcare, you will also need a license to practice. So The application process involves obtaining all the necessary documents and then making an appointment for a visa interview. And then there you would pay for the visa fee. So citizens of the United States, Australia, Canada, Israel, Japan, New Zealand, Switzerland, and South Korea are examples of where citizens can enter Germany, find a job, and then apply for a work permit without needing an entry visa. So that's nice. Again, that information, if you want to look it up, you can go to germany-visa.org, or allaboutberlin.com also has guides to work visas if you want to go there. Now let's talk a little bit about Canada. What are the most in-demand jobs in Canada? The most in-demand jobs in Canada for 2024 include a variety of positions in many different sectors. I'm just going to read them to you, number one all the way down. No particular order, but these jobs are right now, as of this recording, considered to be highly sought after positions. Number one, electrical engineer. Number two, aerospace engineer. 3, software engineer. 4, human resources manager. 5, web developer. Now, I don't know if that would include WordPress web development or that's just a offshoot of web development, what they're saying there, number 5. But let's keep going. Number 6, veterinarian. Number 7, recruiter. Number 8, financial advisor. Number 9, pharmacist. Number 10, welder. Number 11, general laborer. Number 12, industrial electrician. Number 13, heavy-duty equipment mechanic. Number 14, administrative assistant. Number 15, receptionist. 16, merchandiser. 17, driver. 18, construction estimator. 19, home health aide. And 20, medical technologist. And so when you just look at this list, I mean, this is an incredible variety that spans various industries. I mean, when we were talking about engineering, technology, healthcare, skilled trades, the demand for healthcare professionals and engineers and skilled tradespeople, it remains very high in Canada, which presents a promising job prospect for individuals that are in these fields. Now, I work with some individuals in Canada who really like it there and are doing really well with their businesses, with their work. So again, I think that sometimes, bad news travels faster than good news. That's a definite. But sometimes we get the idea that the whole world is falling apart if we just listen to a certain kind of news, if we just look at certain facts and figures, if we just look at certain areas. But yet there are other areas where life seems to be prosperous, where people are doing well, that have lower crime rates, and these areas exist, and the quality of life and the work-life balance are there. And so, yeah, it's worth looking into this, definitely. Don't resign yourself that you have to stay wherever it is that you are if you're unhappy there, or you're just overwhelmed with the prospect of moving. It just seems like there's too many moving parts. Recognize that people are doing this every day, and you have to just decide that sooner or later, you have to not make excuses that you're too young, or you're too old, or now's not the right time. I don't think there's ever a perfect time to do some of these things. Sometimes may be definitely better than others, but if you really want to do it, you can do it. And I think that at the end of the day, the only thing that you might really regret is the fact that you never made the effort to try it. Okay, some citations you can look at for some of these other things that I've just talked about, that I've just mentioned. You can check out aboutstaffing.com. You can look at cicnews.com, and this gives you all of the updated information, what's going on right now. You can look at canadim.com. They also recently wrote an article about the top 10 in-demand jobs that are in Canada. So if you want to relocate to a place like Germany or Canada, and remember there were others that I mentioned, it's just that I didn't have time to get into the specifics of them, but the same principles apply. Do you need a work permit and a work visa? Do you need both? Or how long does it take on average to acquire each of these different types of visas? Well, if you want to relocate to, let's say, Germany or Canada for work, you'll typically need a work permit and a work visa. In Germany, a work and residence permit are usually obtained through a single application at the German immigration office. Now, if you get hired by another company. For example, what would be the first step that you would take? Well, first, we're talking about getting the actual applying for the job. And so you can go to LinkedIn, you can go to Indeed.com, and you can begin the process of looking to see if you can find something that's a good fit for you. That's where everything would start. Once you have that connection, what's nice is that you have somebody at the destination point that's there to help you, that's there to answer questions. And of course, when the actual move takes place itself, you have us available here at SDC International Shipping. We can help you take care of all of the logistics, because all of these countries that I've just mentioned, we help people move to month in and month out, week in and week out. This is something that we do all the time, every day. And so you're going to have your I's dotted, your T's crossed, and you're going to have somebody working with you on this side of the move and on the destination side of the move, not just for the actual moving process, but for helping you with your work-related items and getting everything in place, helping you with finding a place to live, probably maybe if you want to rent for a while, and all the things that are involved in that. These are the things that people often get overwhelmed with because they're not looking at it from a simple step-by-step process. They're just looking at all of these things vaguely, thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to take care of this, this, and this, instead of, okay, what's the first step? So the first step is to find the employment, and then you can go through the other steps from there. And when we're talking about moving to countries like Germany or Canada, we're talking about countries that are friendly to U.S. expats that are going over there to move. So now, if you're a foreign national, you're coming into Germany, it's been written that if you achieve a certain number of points under a point system, you can apply for a 1-year renewable residency permit to seek work. And so that even if you're not employed yet, you can do it there in Germany. But the duration of the permit depends on the permit type, and it's usually issued for 4 years in the case of an unlimited employment contract. So the process involves applying for a relevant visa for the purpose of employment at the German consulate or embassy, and upon arrival in Germany, applying for a work and residence permit at the local immigration office. And then, like I was saying, if you already have obtained work there, you have the whatever companies that hired you, they will help you work through this entire process because this is not foreign to them. This is something that they do all the time and they're used to it. So, in other words, there's a support system there for you. Now, in Canada, most individuals need a work permit to enter the country. And we're talking about, again, advancing your career, not just going over there and spending 3 months and seeing what you like, what you don't like, and possible places to move to. That's a different type of objective than career advancement. And we're focusing on career advancement right now. But the process and requirements for obtaining a work permit in Canada can vary depending on the type of work that you'll be doing and where you'll be working. So in some cases, you may need to obtain a temporary residence visa or an electronic travel authorization to enter into Canada. And the processing time for a work permit, it can vary depending on the location and the type of work permit that you're applying for. But processing time for both work permits and work visas, they can vary. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to see what's the average time. What's a ballpark figure? And this is what I found. The average processing time for a German work and residence permit is approximately 1 to 3 months, which includes the time to schedule the mandatory visa interview. And the work visa for qualified professionals is typically issued for a maximum of 4 years, and for the duration of the work contract if it's shorter. So maybe you'll be contracted to work for 2 years or less. The average processing time for a Canadian work visa also, it can vary, but in 2024, the processing time for most Canadian work visas, such as those that fall under the Temporary Foreign Worker Program, or TFWP, and the International Mobility Program, can range from 2 weeks to 27 weeks. And so if you want more information on that, again, Germany-visa.org, or you can also go to rippling.com, RIPPLING, And you can find more information on that there. For Canada, visarequirements.world. And there you can find information on the Canadian work visa processing time. When we're talking about this, the actual move, what are the best websites to start your search? Well, most people will tell you Indeed or LinkedIn or ZipRecruiter or sites like that, but you can also go to the Federal Employment Agency website. I don't have the URL for it, but just look it up, Federal Employment Agency website, Federal Employment Agency work site. And then there's places like Monster.com, LinkedIn. There's corporate websites for specific companies that you can reach out to. I've even reached out to some of these companies on Facebook, believe it or not, and I had them reply faster there than actually going to the company website. And this wasn't for a job. This was for just general information about their products and services or some things particular to that company that I was looking for. They actually were faster replying to me on social media sites where they had a presence there than they were in the contact form. The contact form, I found on a lot of these really huge companies, unfortunately, can be like a black hole where you hit submit and that is it. That information is gone, never to be seen again. Okay, and then finally, let me just conclude today. There's more information I can share, but I don't want to go on too long on this and have the topic become convoluted because I know it is a little bit overwhelming for some people, but for most people, you can probably simplify the entire process by starting with the job listings websites. Places like Indeed.com, Monster.com, CareerBuilder.com, LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter. Those are the locations online that will help you get organized, get focused, and see exactly what's out there. And then once you make that connection with the person on the other side, they can give you the specifics. And of course, when you get right down to the day of the move, or of course, before you get to the day of the move, you have us here at SDC International Shipping to help you through all of the logistics that go with an international move. This is something we do day in and day out. This is what we specialize in. So you don't have to worry about moving your household goods, whether we're moving to Canada, Germany, or some other place. We move to over 190 countries worldwide. And our team is made up here of seasoned logistics professionals, experienced packers and movers, as well as administrative specialists who collaborate. Everyone's working together to ensure that our clients receive the best international moving experience possible. Now, somebody can go online and you can find different moving companies with the pros and cons and the reviews. And I have to say, for the most part, that a lot of the reviews out there, whether they're positive or negative, you have to wonder whether or not the company purchased those or whether they're legitimate reviews or not. I know some people are kind of skeptical when they see the reviews. And also, you have to realize that no matter what company you're dealing with, everybody has a horror story or two that happened to them. I know for myself, just this past week, I went to a restaurant that my friends all loved, and I had a horrible experience there. I don't want to go into the details about it, but I just really had a bad experience, and I couldn't believe that this was the same place that other people had had a positive experience with. And, now I put a few weeks between myself and the experience, and I have to say that everything comes down in the end to people. Everybody's human, and sometimes people perform better than others. Sometimes there's outside circumstances. The person's having a bad day. Somebody misses something, or they're not at 100%. And yeah, you hate to make excuses because you say that, well, shouldn't you have something in place to avoid this or that happening? I'm not just talking about international moving now. I'm just talking about anything in life. And there is that human error thing that's always possible. And so no matter what you're buying today, I guess you can find somebody who had a bad experience with that company. And yeah, SDC International Shipping, we have positive testimonial after positive testimonial. And sure, if you look, you'll find somebody where something went wrong. But I just want to assure you that we've been in business for 14 years, and we don't subcontract part of our process out to the lowest possible bidder, which unfortunately some other companies that present themselves as international moving companies do. They're not actual international moving companies, they're middlemen. And so do your due diligence and look into the company that you're thinking about working with, because This is the major part of the move, the actual transportation of your household goods. But I just want to assure you that SDC International Shipping will be there for you every step of the way, getting all of your personal effects from the United States to your new home overseas. Even though it's a complicated, complex process, especially if you're on the outside looking in, it's something that you won't have to navigate alone. There's a team that will be working with you, providing expert guidance and all of the comprehensive services that you need for your specific move. All of the estimates are transparent. Nothing is hidden. There won't be any surprises or gotcha at the end. You'll be able to track your shipment. If you need storage facilities for temporary storage, that's available there. If you need help with as far as what are the different regulations, again, we understand that. We're there for you. We'll prepare your furniture beforehand. We'll take care of fragile items if you have those. Professional packing services are available. White glove services are available if you don't want to move a thing. Everything can be done for you door to door. So anyway, I think that does it for our topic today. I hope you found this interesting. I hope you learned something. Every time I look into this topic, I have to say I learned something new. The whole concept of moving internationally has just been such a fascinating topic for me. Some of the countries that I share information about, I'll never be there personally. Maybe you won't either, but it sure is interesting learning about what things are like in other countries, why people move there, why people move from there, the pros and the cons, and everything that goes along with it. All right, that's it for today. If you enjoyed today's episode, as always, please share it with a friend, share it online, social media, send a link in the email, let other people know about this podcast, and we really appreciate you taking the time to do that because there's so much noise out there on the internet today, so many different podcasts that your sharing of this podcast makes it possible for us to reach people that we may otherwise never reach. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing it. This is Jim for SDC International Shipping. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next week in next week's episode.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for listening. Whether you're relocating within the country or moving to the other side of the world, we're here to help from start to finish. Connect with us today at 888-779-3962. That's 888-779-3962.